Hello and welcome to a very special review of the whole of the Daemons of Nurgle release, with the exception of a couple of models, which I will talk about in a moment. I was going to skip this release, much like I was going to completely skip the Death Guard release, and actually there was more of a reason for me to skip this release than the Death Guard release. The Death Guard, I was going to skip it because it was just coming off the back of a very expensive and saturated Primaris release, of which I wanted to get a couple more boxes and things of that release, and I didn't really want to have much Primaris sort of backlog in terms of, well, painting really, not just building but just the painting. Whereas this release, definitely a bigger reason was because of all the Adeptus Custodes about to drop. But I decided to just pick 6 of the boxes, 6 of the models, so that it wouldn't impact as much for the Custodes release, because I know that Custodes are very, very popular. I've got 4,000 plus points of Custodes now, including the Orion dropship flyer. So I've heavily invested in that army, and my biggest army is the Imperial sort of side of things, with Space Marines and Grey Knights and obviously Custodes. If Custodes weren't coming out, I would definitely get another Great Unclean one, probably a couple more Beasts of Nurgle. I might have even got the other sort of Nurgle releases, like the Lord of Blights and the Pusgoyle Blight Lords, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. Because I completely fund this channel, everything from the computer to the internet to the camera, and all my time as well. I invest a lot of time into the channel, and because I do all of that off my own back, there will be times when I won't be able to cover absolutely everything. I'm not sent anything for free. Other YouTubers that are similar size to me do get stuff sent for free, and I do pride myself on being completely transparent. Because it's my money that I'm spending, and because there's no sort of external influence, I'm always likely to say whether something's good or bad in the model. That gives me that creative freedom. But if you do want to see all the models in a particular release, all the books, all the scenery, things like that, and if you're not in a position to financially contribute to the channel in any way, even like a $1 a month or anything like that, if you're not in that position, then my best advice is just to keep watching the videos, keep liking them, put in the comments, that really motivates me, and subscribing if you haven't already. And the more people that watch, the more likes, the more comments and things, the more I'm motivated to continue it. Because at the end of the day, this is a hobby, not just the hobby you see in front of you, but the hobby of me doing the channel. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long, long time, and I've had this channel for over 5 years now, and I hope it's helped people in some way. But I do have a full-time job, and I do have other commitments as well, and I think it's just important to say that. So let's get into this review of all of these releases then. So I didn't pick up the Lord of Blights. I'm going to just show you that picture of a Lord of Blights on the White Dwarf. I'm just showing it now. That model, £15, quite decent for £15 to be fair. You know, it's got a lot of detail and things, definitely would fit into the aesthetics of this, especially if you've got Blight Lords as well. You know, they are a set for the Daemons of Nurgle. They're a pretty good set. And also I didn't pick up the Pusgoyle Blight Lords, which are £40, a fair bit of money, but like the Beast of Nurgle, I'm pretty sure I'd be impressed with that set. £20 each for, you know, a big Rotfly model with Nurglings and all the rest of it. I would have liked to have unboxed that and reviewed it for you, but unfortunately not in this case. The models that I did get then, my favourite out of all of them, definitely the Great Unclean one there. You know, it comes with a load of spare parts, 6 Nurglings, and different weapon options. You can magnetise him, and like I say, you can have lots of different weapon options there. The Bile Sword, the Bile Blade, the Flail, the Bell, the Staff if you want to choose to have him as Rotigus, which is a named character in the Chaos Demons Codex for 40k, and I think you can use him in Age of Sigmar too. All of the models surprise me with their detail and how they go together. It's a really great time to be in the hobby when you're in a position of being able to buy the most recent models. Very recent. These were probably designed and made in storerooms and things sometime last year. I want to say summer, maybe a bit later. Obviously Horticulus was similar sort of time to that, but it's really great to be on that edge of the very, very newest models that Games Workshop are creating, and to see how they are progressing in terms of making them. They seem to me to be moving into a sort of monopose character based system, where the models are very expensive, you know, £85 for the Great Unclean one there, or Mortarion, but highly detailed miniature range. With these releases, and with the Death Guard and with the Primaris, it seems to me like they are moving away from you know, a lot of multi-pose miniatures that they had with the Space Marines. And that is the price. There has to be a trade-off somewhere. You're getting highly detailed miniatures for a little bit more money. You're sort of forgiving the multi-pose of them. None of these models are multi-pose at all. Even the sort of Great Unclean one, you can't move that arm round a bit. You can't move this arm around a bit. Maybe if it was in metal or back in the day, they would have just had the arm separate. They would have had the full head separate, and you just glue it on or twist it or whatever. But they've moved away from that. You can also see what they've done with the scenery as well. Now, this isn't new. This has been around for, 10 years or so that they've been making scenery, in particular this Feculent Narmor, in the sort of cheaper, harder, sort of less detailed plastic made in China. But this is the first time that I've seen like a model for you know, like a game system that has fortification rules in a codex be part of the you know, sort of like the main lineup. I don't think that is a sign for the future. They're certainly going to make Horticulus Slimucks in China or anything like that. I think they are going to still have a strong base in Nottingham for all their, you know, character sort of miniatures and the troops and things like that. But in a way, it does step things forward a little bit. That they're releasing a model now that has some decent rules and has a synergy with another character miniature range, and you can create them on the battlefield. That's the thing I'm trying to say. It's not like you've got an Imperial bunker that's another scenery piece, and you just bring it along and it's there as a bit of scenery, but also as a fortification. This thing has a very active role in the battle and in your force. So very pleasantly surprised with all of the models that they released. I really like all the detail on all of them. There's a lot of aesthetics here which run very deep with the Death Guard release too. I think it's been a fantastic release for Chaos Demons. I just wish that they'd continued that momentum. And it's hard for me to say that as an Imperial player, but I just wish that they continued the momentum and brought out, well, Khorne had their day, Tzeentch had their day, their big releases a year, 2 years ago. But I just wish they'd then followed that momentum and brought out Slaanesh, a new range of Slaanesh models. They're in dire need of updating. Maybe they will be in the far future, but next month we've got Thousand Sons and Custodes to come. The Codex is a great codex, but like I said before, it does suffer from sort of model fatigue in some places. I'm not a huge fan of them putting all of the models from all of the factions in HQ troops sections, especially when they're different colours as well. I understand why they've done the colours to make it easier, a moment's glance to see which faction it belongs to, but I would have much rather had a separate section for Nurgle, separate section for Khorne, just so that you could pick that army, and then in that part of the book that is that army. Or even better, have a separate Nurgle book, separate Khorne book, and so on. And that's fine. Chaos is supposed to be this huge, big, rich part of both of the game systems and lore, that to have one book to cover all four sort of gods, I think it doesn't really do it justice compared to sort of Space Marines that have a big codex themselves, or the biggest codex. Then you have a Blood Angels and a Dark Angels codex. Soon you'll have Space Wolves at some point. Maybe in the future you might have Black Templars and Salamanders separate books. So for this big, all-encompassing sort of faction, I think it does deserve separate books. And that's obviously what they did with the Glotkin. They brought out that tome for Age of Sigmar, and I don't see why they can't really do that for 40k. But that's just my sort of thoughts on it. So yeah, moving back to my favourite model was the Great Unclean one. I mean, Horticulus, I had my eye on that model for a long, long time since it was first released in that box. So I'm pleased that was made available separately. The tree is pretty decent, even though it is sort of less detail and different sort of plastic and things like that. I am a bit bummed out that it didn't come with a base. You could fit a base in that set, I think, and then at least it gives people the option, because it will look a bit strange just like that, especially if you're on a board. You're going to have to put a load of stones and things and whatever around it to sort of make it blend into your board. For me, I just prefer if it was on a base, because then at least you've got the option. The two characters, well, I'll say two characters, there's basically three characters there, isn't there, for HQ, but the two characters, the Bar Piper and the Sporepox, great miniatures, a load of detail. They have their own unique Nurglings as well. That one you can't really put on another base, but that one you can, so that's fantastic. And again, for £15, I mean, this one really, in my opinion, should have been £22.50, given the size and the amount of detail and things. This one, I don't think they could get away with that, but yeah, stupendous models for that price point. And I wish that all sort of models of that size, characters, stayed at £15, even if Games Workshop make a bit of a loss, because they do make their money up in other areas, like the big box games, like the scenery as well. And even maybe, you know, reduce the price of the Beast of Nurgle. If it was £20, I think more people would be more open to it. But I think the £25 is that trigger sort of price point. But it is itself a great model. It's got its little box, it's got its instruction book with both the rule sets, and it does come with a fair amount of spare parts too. And the tree, I have to say, is a bit smaller than I thought. And again, I think that's mainly just due to the fact that it's not on a base. A base would give it a bit more presence. And that's the end of my review of all of the Daemons of Nurgle releases. Shame I couldn't get the other two boxes. But as I said before, if you want to support the channel, keep watching the vids, keep liking them, commenting, and if you wanted to support financially, there is a Patreon for you to do that. I want to hear what your favourite model was for this release. One that you purchased, not one that you looked at, because it's a whole different sort of experience. You buying the model with your own money and unboxing it and putting it together and find out what works and what doesn't work. And actually, if you've gone ahead and painted the model and used it in game as well. What's been your favourite model out of this release? Please do put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Now we can look forward to the Adeptus Custodes releases. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Papa bless.